As of this video, I'm 36 years old and I interviewed people in their 40s and 50s about the best financial advice that they have that I could use in my life. And this is what they gave me. If you're new here, my name is Maoli Vodi with Financially Present. And one of the first things that they mentioned to me was my mental health. Their best advice was that my mental health needs to take a priority. If you think about it, they're both related. You see, your mental health and your financial health, they just create this chicken and egg situation where if one isn't doing well, it's going to affect the other. So when we talk about mental health, even on a basic level, like anxiety, stress, depression, those all affect your financial decisions. And a lot of your financial decisions can contribute to more anxiety, stress, and depression. So in order to combat that, you have to lift your financial or your mental health to a certain level of regard, because what's going to happen is if you don't study and understand how your mental health contributes to your financial decision making, then you'll find yourself not knowing what the problem is or where it can begin or where you can stop it because you don't know where it began. So at the end of the day, your mental health takes priority because everything else stems from it. Anxiety, stress, depression, all of these are some of the basic levels of mental unwellness. And when we think about how we can cope with certain things, they range from levels of avoidance all the way to even self-medicating. Imagine you have anxiety or stress about something specifically, and in turn you use your finances to drink or self-medicate, and that is now a financial obligation, and if it becomes a habit, it's a regular cost. So your mental health can actually snowball into something much bigger than you would want it to, especially when it involves your finances. And then likely, if your financial situation isn't doing better, it's going to affect your mental health. So that's one of the biggest pieces of advice that they gave me, and it relates to the next piece of advice that they gave me. And that's the fact that your physical health is more important than your financial health. Yeah, you've heard the saying, your health is your wealth, and it really is true. I've seen it in so many different ways, but what they told me was that when you're in your 30s, you can't rely on the things that brought you to your 30s. And if you want to make it to your 40s and 50s, 60s and beyond, you have to take care of what you have now. So when it comes to physical health, there has to be some balance as far as your diet, and there has to be some balance as far as your physical activity. So 20 to 30 minutes a day is literally all it takes, according to what they told me. And I believe it. It's something that I've been working on and implementing in my life, and it actually will affect your mental health. Imagine just working out and it helps you have a positive mood versus just sitting down all day. So they are right in the sense that your physical health is a big part of your wealth. And then also they mentioned that at the end of the day, no matter how rich you are, there's no magic pill that you can buy that will cure you of everything that you have. Some of it you can control and some of it you can't. So essentially deal with the controllables by having some physical activity and having some mental wellness. Another piece of advice they gave me was to read. I've actually been working on this for the last several years because growing up I liked reading, but I didn't love it. And now it's one of the best forms of just enjoyment, relaxation, and just understanding things. But it's really important, especially from their perspective, because you're going to be sold to a lot. And it's going to be by people on social media, people on podcasts, people on YouTube even. And at the end of the day, you'll be able to spot these things that have been recycled over and over, not just by listening to them or like listening to me, but if you actually read the books themselves, you'll see where a lot of these things come from. So whether it's books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, or Total Money Makeover, or How to Win Friends and Influence People, or The Psychology of Money, or The Intelligent Investor, there are dozens, hundreds, and thousands of books that people quote on a regular basis, and they package it up. And if you run into a slick salesperson one day and you don't know these books, or you haven't read them, or don't understand things, it's gonna seem like it's brand new to you when it's really the same old thing. And it's really important that you can spot these things a mile away. Another piece of advice they gave me was that you need to learn how to relearn how you learn. And this is really a point at AI, because people in their 40s and 50s, they admittedly have a problem trying to use some of these things. It's not instinctual for them. And I would admit, even for me in my mid-30s, it's not something that I immediately go to. In fact, there are times where I want to stay away from AI and all of these other forms of technology. There's some things I do old school, and some things that, like, I'm with it as far as the technology is concerned. But if you're older, you're going to continue to get outpaced by technology. And their reminder to me was that I need to understand how to relearn my way of learning. One example they gave me was that they have some kids that, instead of them deciding to read a full article and then realize that they like it or not, they will copy and paste that whole article, put it in AI, condense it, and then read the summary to know whether or not they should even spend time reading that article. And that's something that could save you 10 minutes here and there, or it could also help you get the answer a lot faster than you would by reading something all the way through over and over again, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet and not all of it's good, not all of it's right. And the quicker you can find information, the better. So ultimately, relearn how you learn. And that also leads me to my next piece of advice that they gave me. And that's just to listen to your body. So that relates to the physical activity, but is that once you hit your 30s, it's a really pivotal point, because how you take care of yourself now spells everything out for how you are treated, even in the medical field, in your 40s, 50s, and 60s. They're gonna ask, is this something that's been lingering for a long time? You know, did you get that checked? When did you start seeing these type of things happen? And if you can't tell the medical professional, then you're gonna find yourself in this situation where you can be going from doctor to doctor and you just don't know when anything began. But if you have regular checkups, you'll be baselined and you'll have an idea of what a regular, normal, healthy you feels like. So that when something is off, and when you're really listening to your body, you'll be able to hear it. And that means go to those annual visits, get checked out when something's going wrong, go to urgent care if it's something that's urgent, and get a second opinion if it requires it, because it's better to figure out now, because medical bills only get higher as you get older, and that affects your finances. All right, so the next piece of financial advice they gave me, it actually kind of blew me away, because it's something that I'm already working on actively, and it was to set boundaries. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no thanks, because at the end of the day, you can't be everywhere all the time. You have to know when to put down that phone, when to stop the scrolling, when to close the laptop and join your family, or when to sit down and listen without distractions. It's something that I think we all have to focus on, and sometimes it's as far as our personal boundaries, whether it's digital devices, or it's, you know, blocking off your calendar for the right thing, or closing your calendar off from the wrong thing. Either way, setting boundaries was something that they stressed incredibly. Another piece of advice that they gave me was to help and give to others. And it doesn't always have to be money. It could be time. It could be providing some knowledge or mentoring somebody. But there are times where I may speak at an organization and they may not be able to pay me, but at least I'm sharing the knowledge that I can give for that particular scenario. And giving in that regard is just one example, but you've been blessed with something, and in order for it to really be a blessing is if you share it and give it to others, and at least they will understand how you've been blessed, and they can be able to share that with someone else. It is the gift that keeps giving. Another real quick piece of advice they gave me was to just make a plan and follow through with it. It's really hard to stay consistent in anything if you don't have some type of plan or build around it. In fact, some people have issues with finances because they don't have anything that they're focusing on, and they may want to do so many different things, and then they lose sight because they don't know what is driving them to do any of the behaviors that everyone's telling them to do. Of course, everyone says to invest or to save or to stop using so much debt or to cut up their credit cards, but if you don't have any one reason or any plan that's driving you towards anything, then those behaviors, they become null and void, and you find yourself in the same trap over and over again. So make a plan and follow it, was their advice. Along that same vein, another piece of advice they gave was to know what you're willing to give up. Basically, they told me that everything comes at a cost. So you either are going to have to pay with your time, or pay with your money, or pay through learning or experience. Because ultimately you can't have everything without giving something up. And this ties into your boundaries, it ties into your mental health, your physical health, and it especially ties into your finances. Because there are some people who figure they can get rich quick, and if you do, there are some things that come with that. Getting rich quick doesn't help you have the knowledge to actually use that wealth properly. Your real true wealth is built over the course of time. And along those ways, you learn, you build a network, you have knowledge that can help you maintain that. So know what you're willing to give up. If you know that you're willing to give up some time in order to build that wealth, generally that will work better. But if you are willing to get rich quick, that's gonna come at a cost. What that cost may be, I don't know how much you're willing to pay. And this leads me to my last piece of advice from some of my elders. And they said, you have to invest. On a regular basis, long term, you have to invest. There is no way around it. In fact, by investing on a long-term basis, it actually prepares you to invest in other things. There's no other way to be comfortable with investing without investing. And by buying investments long-term, it actually positions you to be ready for other investments that come along. Because people who are able to get in early on specific things, not only because of their wealth and their status, but their comfortability and experience in that field and around people who know those fields, puts them in the position to say, hey, you know what? I've invested in here and I understand this, but now that I have some extra funds, I'm willing to put it towards that. And that's through experience and comfortability in the investment markets, because it is not easy to be comfortable with the risk that comes with the ups and downs of the stock market. And if these tips don't help you, then I have plenty of other videos, especially like this one, that can help.